Okay, folks, today is the 24th of June, 2023, and I have another project that has popped up out of nowhere for me. It's a 1964 Pontiac Catalina. It's a four-door sedan. Doesn't sound like anything special on the surface, but this is a special car. This car was originally owned by a fellow by the name of Enoch Rufus Staley. And Mr. Staley was the owner and operator and the builder of the North Wilkesboro Motor Speedway in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Mr. Staley built that racetrack in 1947 and operated it until he died in 1995. And then if you're a NASCAR fan, everybody knows that the North Wilkesboro Speedway closed down shortly after that in 1996 and remained closed for nearly 30 years until it was recently reopened last month, where NASCAR held the first race there in a very long time. Anyway, I acquired this car from a young man in Gastonia, North Carolina, about a week ago. He only owned the car for a short period, didn't really do much with it. He did move forward a little bit with getting an engine together for it. Not the original engine. So the original engine and transmission that came in this car was a 389, and it would have originally had a roto-hydromatic transmission in it, which, if you know anything about old GM automatics, the roto-hydromatic was not very popular, and so it's gone. I don't know what happened to the original drivetrain from this car. Like I said, it is a 1964 model. The engine that came with the car is a 1966 date-coded 389. This one is 40 over. I just got finished putting it back together. It is, quote, a new engine. It's been bored out, has new pistons, new cam, timing chain, all that stuff is new. And it had never been started before I got it. And of course, I haven't started it yet either, because after I got it home and got to looking at it a little closer, I wasn't very impressed with the assembly. Had a lot of mixed and matched bolts, and when I started taking them out to replace them, you know, the threads were filthy, and I thought, man, you know, I should probably open this thing up and make sure it's okay. The oil pan gasket was gommed up pretty good, so I thought I would at least drop the oil pan and replace that gasket and put it together right. And man, I got into a can of worms on this thing. For starters, all 8 pistons were installed backwards. So right away, I had to disassemble the engine to correct that. The number 2 cylinder connecting rod bolts were just finger tight. Apparently they were overlooked when they torqued everything, when they put it together. One of the pistons, the piston that happens to be in the, let's see, the number 5 hole at the moment, was slightly damaged, apparently, when the connecting rod was installed on it. The skirt, the lower skirt, was about 7/1000ths of an inch out of round, and it was fitting way too tight in the cylinder. I had to correct that. That was an easy fix in my press. Not a big deal. About half of the piston rings were installed upside down. 3 of the main bearing cap bolts on the crankshaft main bearings were a 1/2 inch too short, and were only engaging the block by about 3.5 to 4 threads. And I later discovered that those 3 bolts actually belonged in the cylinder head installation, and 3 of the bolts that were in the cylinder head installation that should have been in the main caps had been cut off because they were too long to fit in the cylinder heads. So yeah, was not very impressed at all with the assembly of this engine. I'm very thankful that the previous owner did not start it, because it would have destroyed itself very quickly. Another thing that it had that I discovered that was screwed up was on the front of the crankshaft, between the timing gear, the crank gear, and the timing chain cover, there was an oil slinger installed there that appears to me was probably part of an earlier style engine with a different timing chain cover. It did not belong in this assembly, and it was squeezed, literally squeezed between the back of the timing chain cover and the crankshaft gear, and it was a hard fit, and it was breaking the engine. It was breaking the crankshaft when you tried to turn it, and it was actually making metal filings against the back of the timing chain cover. So that would not have lasted very long at all. So yeah, I was glad that I did decide to go ahead and take it apart. It was also missing half of the water pump flow divider assembly that goes in the timing chain cover behind the water pump. It only had the top half. The bottom half of it was missing, or the back half, whatever you want to call it. And this piece was just flopping around in there behind the water pump. So that wouldn't have worked either. Not to mention there was about 2 tubes of silicone that were used between the timing chain cover and the oil pan gasket, and that stuff was all gooped out onto the inside of the crankcase. There was a good portion of it smeared on the timing chain itself. So I have corrected all of that. I had to order the head gasket set. It won't be here for a couple of days. So this engine started life as a 2-barrel high compression 389 for a 1966 passenger car. It was 290 horsepower. The code on the block is YV. I believe that's YV, or no, YW. Yeah. Which is not vehicle specific. It's just passenger car, 1966. The date code on it is May 18th, 1966. Same exact date code on the cylinder heads, which means that they are original to the block. These are number 092 cylinder heads, closed chamber. They have 188 intakes and 166 exhaust valves. It's got a mild cam in it. It's a Summit part number 2800. I think it's made by Comp Cams. Not quite stock, but just a mild performance cam. Doesn't require anything special like a high stall converter or anything. And I do have a nice Edelbrock Performer intake that came with it, and it came with a brand new set of ceramic coated long tube headers. I figure if I get the right carburetor, installed on it, get it tuned up right. It'll probably make somewhere around 350 horsepower, I would expect. So yeah, it also came with a turbohydromatic 400 transmission, unknown condition, but the bell housing was broke on it, and so I decided I wasn't going to use it. This transmission came out of a 1974 Buick Electra. It actually came out of the same car that I got the 455 out of that went into my 1966 Skylark. If you've followed my channel, that car already had a turbo 350 in it with the correct drive shaft and everything, so I just put the 455 in front of that and put this transmission in my shed. I got it out the other day and opened it up. It's clean. Cleaned out the pan, put a new pan gasket and filter in it, and we're going to try it out and see if it works. If it doesn't work, I'll snatch it back out of the car and fix it. A few interesting facts about this car. It does have the notorious 57 to 64 Olds Pontiac 9.3 inch axle. It's similar to a 9-inch Ford in design, but bigger. These things have huge axles. But something interesting about this one is it has a 256 gear in it, which is pretty unusual for 1964. And I have a suspicion that it was probably special ordered with that gear, because this car, I suspect, saw some official duties on the racetrack, because it has two speedometers in it. It has the original speedometer that's on the dash, which here's the cable for that one. I checked it with my drill, it works. And then it has a second speedometer. Here's the cable for it. They were kind of taped together. And anyway, it has a second speedometer that's mounted under the dash, and I suspect it's probably a certified speedometer, possibly. They used it for pace car or timing car. I don't know. I'm hoping somebody that's watching this video might know something more about this car. I'm not the biggest NASCAR fan that ever lived. I did used to go to the NASCAR races all the time when I was a kid with my dad and my grandpa. And I remember going to races at North Wilkesboro back in the 80s. But anyway, this is a special car, and I'm glad that I was able to rescue it. And my plan is to get it back together with this engine and transmission, get it running and driving, and hopefully show it off. And maybe I can connect with somebody that knows more history about this car, and maybe can connect me with the Staley family that might be able to tell me some stories about this car, and possibly connect with somebody that really wants this car to capture it for its prominence, in NASCAR. It definitely needs to be saved for that reason. But anyway, I'm gonna drop it down here so we can look inside of it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's the other speedometer over there. It's a VDO speedometer, like would be in an early Volkswagen Beetle or a Porsche, 50s and 60s vintage Porsches. Pretty interesting. Also inside of this car when I got it was this old safari hat. You see it there in the back. And somebody has taken a magic marker and wrote Wilkesboro Speedway on it. I don't know if Enoch wore this hat, if this was his hat, or if it was somebody else's hat. That's another question I would like to have answered. Some other things that were inside of this car there were two white polyester Winston Cup Series coverall type uniforms. I don't know if they were like official uniforms or if they were race suits or what they were. I'll see if I can figure out a way to post some still images of those in this video when I get ready to post it. Here's another neat object that was in the car I found under the seat. It's an old pocket watch style stopwatch. That's probably an important piece of history right there. Who knows how many famous NASCAR drivers were timed possibly with that stopwatch. So yeah, this car is very neat. I do have the hood for the car. It's around back under my porch. I need to get the car outside and clean under the engine bay before I get ready to put this engine back in the car. I don't have any idea how long it's been sitting around with no engine in it. It does have what appears to be a fairly new master cylinder on it, and it has functioning brakes, believe it or not. It still has the original rubber hoses on the brake lines, and they're hard, but they still work. I'm not going to drive this car with those lines on it. I'm going to replace that stuff. But it's pretty fascinating to me that they still work. Other than that, it's pretty much unmolested. The original engine wiring is intact. Nothing's been cut. And I do have what appears to be the original 64 vintage engine-driven accessories. The alternator and the power steering pump and all the brackets appear to be original to this car. So it shouldn't take me much to get it together and get it running. Well, I think that's about all for this video. It went a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I'm looking forward to getting this thing together and learning a little bit more about it, and possibly networking with some folks that have actual memories of this car. So if you're watching this video and you know something about it, please comment. Leave me some contact information. I'll get in touch with you. Thanks for watching.